We're not even paying it on top of it.
What's up, everybody? How we doing, man? It's been a while since we've been up on live. But how we doing, man? What's going on? Let me turn this down. But man, we back for another one. You know, some people been paying attention what's going on up there in Cumberland, man. Josh LIMA. We're gonna talk about that. $80,000 the school committee spent on investigating this guy. That's crazy. $80,000, man. For that, like, I don't know. Somebody would have to go. If I spend $80,000 investigating somebody, I think somebody has to go, man. We waiting for the Karen Reed. She has a court date going on today, you know, for her dismissal. Members of the jury, they told people in the media that they voted for an acquittal. You know, so we'll have to see what goes on with that, man. But we're gonna break down Coach LIMA, Josh LIMA. What's up, Josh? Everyone knows Josh is my boy. You know what I mean? I ride for Josh LIMA. You know, wish him the best. You know, but really, I mean, I don't make the news. You know, like my boy Harlem says, I don't make the news. You know, I just break it down. I just talk about it. So you know, nobody should be in their feelings. Nobody should be mad. I mean, I didn't do this. Josh LIMA done this. But anyway, a lot of people remember last November, you know, with Josh LIMA when he was, we had a report of a player, of a student athlete getting hurt on the premises at the locker room, in the school locker room. He was seriously injured. He had to be taken out, rescue, taken to the hospital. This was the day of a playoff game. He rode to the hospital by himself. The parents knew the last time that they dropped their son off, that they dropped him off at Cumberland High School, where he was safe, you know, safe with an adult. They dropped him off with an adult. Then they get a call finding out that he's in the emergency room. You know, he was injured badly. So what happened was the father complained. We watched this the other day. We watched the other day when the father complained. He went to the school committee, you know, and he said it was 300 days since my first complaint, and it was like 250 days since my son was hospitalized and injured, and it was 180 days, so on, since the school committee ordered an investigation. You know, but for a public school to $180,000, imagine like your school committee spending $80,000. Yo, they must have bank up there in Cumberland. Let me tell you. You know what I mean? Because how many school committee budgets do I hear that they're like, yeah, we really don't have that much money? $80,000 to investigate a high school football coach. A lot of school districts get rid of coaches for less. Situate got rid of Coach D. You know, I haven't heard from Coach D in a couple of years. He did what he did, but that's over. You know, they got rid of Coach D for a lot less. You know what I mean? Coach Fortin, you know, whatever he was doing, got rid of him. You know, and shout out to him. He came out on the good side of his stuff. You know, so yeah, Coach. And I mean, it's just happening. You know, they got rid of him for less, and a lot of other coaches. So, you know, Cumberland spends $80,000, man. Like, that's some serious bread. We waiting for the Karen Reed. There's supposed to be a hearing today. You know, the jury saying, yo, we voted to acquit Karen Reed. But let me bring you back over here, and we can kind of hear a little bit. We'll go over last week what the dad had to say at the school committee. Now, who I'm going to show you right now is Lieutenant Colonel. Imagine that, Lieutenant Colonel, Special Forces, Jason Dean. What do you got to do to be a lieutenant colonel? That sounds like it's kind of a big deal, right? So let's hear what Lieutenant Colonel Jason Dean had to say. This was like maybe a couple weeks ago, when the report was done. But $80,000 Cumberland High School pays to investigate Josh Lima. There was 11 allegations. They interviewed like 9, 10, 11 people. That you're gonna hear them talk about it. They're gonna detail it. Well, not detail it. They're gonna beat around the bush and explain it. But
It's election season. I don't want this to be forgotten. I know there's an ongoing investigation. I have been given no updates. In that meeting on December 5th, there was an admittance to 3 policy violations. Mr. Fiorillo, you told me that you took it very seriously. Road, Cumberland, Rhode Island. I just want to remind the committee, I know everyone knows me here, almost everyone, that it's day 323 since I made my initial complaint about my son being mistreated. It's day 251 since my son was assaulted at the school. It's day 219.
now, when he was assaulted, that's what the school committee found Lemur to be in violation of leaving students unattended at a school event. Now, a school event, it could be a dance, it could be, a recital, it could be something going on, a sporting event, leaving kids unattended. So, like, imagine you leave kids unattended at a dance and a kid got hurt, taken to the emergency room. That's why this is kind of a big deal. I think other coaches' heads would have rolled if their school committee spent $80,000 investigating a high school football coach. That's crazy.
Since my son's suspension was unanimously overturned by the committee, and it's day 182 since the investigation was authorized for my, into the complaint I made about my son. In the language in that meeting, everyone seemed pretty horrified when they watched the video. I got emails, and some of the language in the emails was the same, that they were horrified, incredibly sorry. I cannot imagine all that happening to my child in the place that they are supposed to be safe.
Now, what he's talking about during a December 5th executive meeting that they had, there was video shown, and the superintendent and principal had the same video. I mean, let's not forget that the kid that got assaulted, got a busted eye socket, got taken out, rescue, rushed to the emergency room. Parents weren't called until the kid was well into the emergency room. That kid, who was also hospitalized a week earlier to this. And I will also say that this guy that you're looking at was the same parent that put on the campaign T-shirts about Lima's resume on the back, hanging up signs. So there was an issue going back between Lima and this gentleman, and just so happens to be that his son keeps ending up in the emergency room. And this time it's because there was no adults present where the kids were. And that was one of the violations that they found Lima guilty of. That's the $80,000 violation.
I know it's election season. I don't want this to be forgotten. I know there's an ongoing investigation. I have been given no updates. In that meeting on December 5th, there was an admittance to 3 policy violations. Mr. Fiorillo, you told me that you took it very seriously. Nothing's been done. I've gotten no updates. I had been recontacted for some comments. I gave the comments. We're looking at 6 months right now for this investigation. After the meeting, I was told to stick with it, that it takes a while. Part of the problem with
stick with it. They're gonna say like part of the problem is no one sticks with it. Well, they're hoping after a while you forget about it. A lot of people know how the school administrations are. They worry about liability. Bottom line, protect the brand.
nothing getting done and nobody getting disciplined is because people give up. Well, we're a month away from a year from my first investigation, so I can definitely see why people would give up.
Now, he didn't give up, and he talks about nobody being held accountable. Jason Dean, he didn't give up, but we're going to go to the school committee now. A lot of people can go back and watch that one. Let me switch this tab over. All right. But $80,000, like, how do you spend $80,000, right, on a high school football coach investigation? A coach is that just made it over 500 after 10 years. $80,000. Let me see if I have the picture of the t-shirts that Mr. Dean oh, also I have to say, now that I just seen it, we got to tell you about the Cato rule. You know, everything we say here is basically an opinion. You know, so full disclaimer, this is the Cato rule, the Dave Cato rule. The views, information, or opinions expressed on Can We Keep It Real podcast are solely the views of the individual involved, myself, and their opinions, and they don't represent any of the views of any third party. They don't enter views of this gentleman that we're watching, anybody. So it is what it is, but that's the Dave Cato rule. So I just wanted to get that out the way. All right, so we're gonna get into this a little bit, but a lot of people remember last November, you know, we actually did the podcast about it. I called up the it's funny because I called up the superintendent and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Phil?" See, me and Phil had a little rapport when the Chris Skirka stuff was going on. See, when the Chris Skirka stuff was going on and that video surfaced, I was like, "Yo, whoa." You know, and I remember Stanley Dunbar saying how Chris Skirka was his role model. And so the video ends up surfacing. And, you know, it's like, it's his junk, allegedly. We'll say allegedly, right? Because I just lost my YouTube channel, right? So, and go to YouTube. We'll follow the new channel at Can We Keep It Real? One word. So we'll say allegedly, right? Chris Skirka had his junk out, right? Sending them to students. It's like, and he's still kind of working there. So I talked to Mr. Thornton. I was like, "Hey, a media podcast, this and that." And, you know, I told him that, you know, we had the video and on Rumble, we were going to kind of blur some stuff out and maybe go forward with it. So he said, "Give me a week." He calls me back and he tells me that Skirka is resigning, you know, so good. Salute to you. Salute to you. You know, so, this stuff comes down with LIMA. And it's just, you know, so I reach out to the superintendent and I was like, you know, explaining to him after the executive session, you know, because that's when I heard a lot of about this, you know. There was a clip of a videotape. The school committee talked about how horrified they were, how some members were actually even crying. They said the video was so bad. And you heard Lieutenant Colonel Dean talk about this, which he's in Iceland right now, from what I heard. So they wait till the guy goes to Iceland. Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel. You know, I'm sure I mean, to make it to a lieutenant colonel in the special forces, you must have to do some real critical stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, this situation, man, it's crazy. And anytime, you know, so Lima has the locker room unattended. The kid gets hurt, taken to the hospital, you know, but I wanted to know, the principal and the superintendent suspends the kid, upholds the suspension. Now, Mr. Thornton in the pink shirt right there. Oh, excuse me. I want to ask you this question, you know, because you're the man in charge. The school committee just basically hires you. They have no power on, you know, they just make policies and recommendations. But I ask you, if this video was so horrible, if the school committee members, right, were so horrified, how did the kid get suspended? And why are we suspending the victims? And this is another reason why domestic violence, a lot of female victims, they don't want to come forward because there's no protection for the victims. So, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Principal, I would like to know, and I'm sure a lot of other people would like to know, you suspended the kid. The video shows he did everything he can to get away from the conflict. You know what I mean? To try to run to help that wasn't there, to try to run to a coach that's supposed to be protecting him, not leaving him in harm's way. But when he ran for the coach and he ran for the staff wasn't there. Next thing you know, he's being put on a stretcher, being taken to the hospital. And does Josh Lima or any of his staff go with that kid? I mean, from what the school committee said, the video, they were horrified. This ain't my words. And when we get the Freedom of Information Act, the emails and everything, I put it in. Emails, Post-it notes, stick-its, anything that involves this, you know, and now I know how to do that Freedom of Information stuff. You know, it actually comes in pretty handy. You know what I mean? I didn't know you can get all types of stuff from the school department. You know, shout out to that. But yeah, when this kid was so seriously injured and these policies were broken, you know, the responsibilities of Josh Lima, the principal, the superintendent, and how they handled this situation. And how did you uphold the victims? The victims, yeah, victims. How did you uphold the victims' suspension? And when the school committee heard it on appeal, they were so horrified by the video, they overturned his suspension, 7-0 vote. And anyone that knows school committees, they don't overturn suspensions.
Next item on the agenda is new business, item A. Discussion and a vote on record of final action taken concerning alleged violations of school committee policy with respect to a student athlete.
Allegedly.
So I will read our public summary of this investigation. About 8 months ago, a parent made a complaint to the superintendent, which he forwarded to the school committee. Broadly speaking, the complaint was that Cumberland School Department employees were not following school committee policy or were otherwise engaged in unfair treatment of the parent's child, a student athlete, in connection with the student's participation in interscholastic athletics. In response to this complaint, the school committee voted to conduct an investigation concerning these complaints to determine whether its policies were being followed. The school committee chose to use an independent investigator with no ties to the Cumberland school community to conduct the investigation. The committee wanted to ensure that the parents' complaints would receive fair and unbiased consideration on the one hand, but also that the investigator would look dispassionately at the evidence and not rush to a judgment that the school committee's policies were violated simply because allegations had been made in that regard.
$80,000. That law firm's like, oh yeah, cha-ching, $80,000, like 180 something page investigation. Imagine that, $80,000. Like, is there any high school coach in the state for $80,000? Like, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I would have felt like, yo, dude, like, you gotta go. $80,000 to investigate a high school football coach when some school department, their budgets, they don't have jack. I don't know, $80,000, man. I can't get over that.
In short, the school committee's goal was to ensure that the investigation was conducted with integrity and with utmost fidelity to the task. The committee hired attorney Deidre Carino of the law firm Hennius Carroll Lombardi LLC to serve as the independent investigator. Attorney Carino and her firm have a great deal of experience in education law, serving as legal counsel to several other school departments in the state. They are routinely asked to perform investigations in situations like this, where they are not serving as legal counsel to the school department. Following a 6-month-long investigation into these allegations, Attorney Carino issued a comprehensive and detailed 192-page confidential investigative report, which also included 34 separate exhibits incorporated into the report. Attorney Carreno interviewed 12 people, including the complaining parent multiple times, students, other parents, and Cumberland employees. She also reviewed many documents and audio recordings provided by the witnesses, various school department records, and she considered all applicable school committee policies and laws. All told, the school committee expended approximately $80,000 on this investigation, so it was a significant undertaking. The school committee received her report on June 7th.
Because I know a lot of people were like, yeah, right, Mikey's full of crap. How much did approximately $80,000 on this investigation? Let me leave that there for a minute. $80,000 on this investigation, yo. Like, that's a lot of money, right? 80,000, man. It's like, I don't know. That's just a hard number to get over, you know, for a football coach, man. You guys make what? Stipends? So they thought the investment was worth it.
It was a significant undertaking. The school committee received her report on June 17th, 2024, and it has now had time to review the report. The parent who made the complaint was also provided the opportunity to review the contents of the confidential investigative report in person. This evening, the school committee will be voting on a record of final action with respect to this investigation pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 382-2-4P. The record of final action will be a public record under the Access to Public Records Act. The parent made 11 allegations. With respect to 9 of those allegations, the evidence did not support a finding that school committee policies were violated, and that finding is reflected in the record of final action. However, there were 2 violations of policy that are reflected in the record of final action. The first violation: school department personnel did not travel in the ambulance with an injured student athlete, which is required if the parent is not available to do so. And the second, school department personnel did not adequately supervise student athletes at a school event. The school committee is recommending that all personnel involved in athletics confirm their understanding prior to each sports season that a member of the staff must travel with the student athlete in an ambulance if the parent is not able to do so.
But you know what? Hang on. Now, this is their recommendation for the violation of not going in the rescue. Are you telling me that they don't know that they're supposed to go in the rescue with the kids, with the minor kids? They're school department employees, right? Don't you guys got a handbook? Don't you got, like, you're going to tell me that when you gave these people their jobs, because I asked a bunch of programs. I called Bishop Hendricken. I asked Westerly. I asked every program I can, every coach that I knew. I think I even asked Blake Simpson. I asked North Smithfield, West Warwick. When a student athlete gets rushed to the hospital, do you send an adult with them 6 hours before your playoff game, Josh? I get it. So all these departments, all these schools, I ask people, do you send an adult with the kid that's all bloodied up, busted eye socket, you know, from what the dad was saying, seriously injured, you know? The video was so horrified. Don't forget, all 7 members overturned it when the kid, and they even said, I couldn't imagine if it was my child. How scared was that kid when he goes to look for his coach? Kids look up to you coaches like you guys are a god. So he's going running to you for help, and you're not there. You left him. So that's one policy that they said he violated, leaving kids unattended at a school event. So that could be vague. That's pretty big, leaving kids unattended at a school event. Now, again, if you're welcome in, please like and share. You can leave a comment. Cumberland spends $80,000 to investigate Josh Lima. Are you serious? Before this last season, he's like 45 and 49. I think one playoff win. Oh, that's what I was looking for, right? The shirt. Because I said that this parent is the same guy that was damn, where is the shirt, man? He was the same parent that was, getting t-shirts and all types of stuff, hanging up flyers, hanging up signs. Where is his shirt? Poor guy. Look at him. Oh. You know what I mean? But I gotta find that picture. I know a lot of you are already seen it, but I had Lehman's resume basically. So when the kid's going running looking for you, so you're not gonna tell me that all these people, all these, whoever was there, Lima takes responsibilities, but you're not gonna tell me that Lima don't know. He's also a teacher in the building, so you're gonna tell me a teacher in the building don't know that when a student is seriously injured and you have to call 911 and he has to be rushed to the hospital after the parent drops him off in Coach Lima's care, and he's rushed to the hospital by himself, and then the parents get a phone call from the hospital. Y'all are just like overlooking this. We drop kids off at schools where they're supposed to be safe, just like the school committee said when they overturned it 7-0. So Thornton and the principal, you suspended the victim. Again, we attack the victims. They do the same thing in domestic violence situations. And that's why a lot of people in domestic violence situations don't want to come forward. We're always attacking the weak.
In addition, the school committee recommends that student athletes should remain in one location for the athletics, confirm their understanding prior to each sports season that a member of the staff must travel with the student athlete in an ambulance if the parent is not able to do so.
No shit, Sherlock. I mean, how is that not common sense? How do you have to remind your staff at the Cumberland School Department? Because again, these were school department policies, school department employees, right? How do you have to remind these people, hey, listen, man, if that kid gets hurt or whatever, you have to go with that poor little kid to the hospital. Make sure he's all right. Stay there until a parent gets there. I mean, it is our damn responsibility, for crying out loud.
In addition, the school committee recommends that student athletes should remain in one location to the extent practical during school events to ease in supervision, and that once the event is over, staff must ensure that students
Wait a
leave.
minute. Wait. See, they're making it sound like, right, this happened after an event, right? Like, oh, maybe a bunch of kids were loitering, things happened, the coach left them, parents weren't there to get them. This happened hours before a playoff game where they were already in the care of the coach. I mean, big deal. Lima go home field playoff games. Yeah, come here early. I don't know if they were having a dinner, if whatever they were doing, but come early. So they're making it sound like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're making it sound like that this happened after an event.
Athletes should remain in one location to the extent practical during school events to ease in supervision, and that once the event is over, staff must ensure that students leave the venue.
See, but they was there beforehand, so they was invited there. They went there. They were in the coach's care. The coaches were in the room, but all of a sudden, the room's empty with adults. And if the video wasn't so bad, Because you know me, I like to be transparent, but you know what? There is a kid involved. Granted, I mean, he's growing up, going to be a man in another year or so, but still, I don't just post anything, but
We also want to clarify a couple of points so the public is aware of the scope of our role. The school committee is a
they're
policy-driven
going to
public.
tell you it's not our responsibility to fire the guy, even though if we could, we would. We hired the little dweeb over there in the pink shirt as superintendent, the one that could have done the right thing with this kid's suspension. Like again, I'll go back to that. You attacking the victim. Just like in the Matt Hopper situation, going right after the victim.
Body. The authority that we have under Title 16 comes largely from the policies that we create and through our role in hiring a superintendent of schools. We do not otherwise have a role in the personnel function of the schools. The superintendent oversees the personnel function of the schools under a specific statute that describes the superintendent's roles and responsibilities. That is Rhode Island General Law 16-2-11. So while the committee was conducting this investigation, which took several months to complete, the superintendent was already aware, for example, of the issue concerning.
You know how he was originally aware, right? Do you think Josh Lima called him right away? Do you think somebody at the school said, "Hey, a rescue squad"? And I could prove this too. I got receipts on this one. Do you think someone said, "Hey, Mr. Pencil, a child was just taken out of here in a rescue squad"? No, you know where he heard it from me, and he was like, "Wow, I'm hearing it from like a podcast dude and not my own staff," But that's how he found out. So he's saying, "I already dealt with the situation a long time ago. Then why'd you have to spend a damn $80,000?"
Traveling in the ambulance and supervision at a team event. In keeping with his responsibility for playing in the ambulance,
The superintendent addressed this. Said, "We need to send somebody with this kid." No shit, Sherlock.
Superintendent was already aware, for example, of the issue concerning traveling in the ambulance and supervision at a team event. In keeping with his responsibility for personnel, he addressed those issues when they happened. In other words,
right? No accountability. Where it is, he was like, "I had a stern talk with Joshua and told him, you can't send kids to the hospital, Josh, without an adult being in that ambulance. We can't have liability. It could cost the school district a lot of money." Where is the accountability, right? Now, you left the kids alone at an event. That was the policy you broke. The event could be anything, but there should have been some type, and I understand he works in the school, and that's kind of even more alarming because like how many other school employees out there don't know that you're supposed to ride with a kid in the rescue?
he did not wait for the investigation to be completed to address those issues.
Could have saved your town $80,000 too. So we already dealt with the situation. How did you deal with it, Mr. Superintendent? And of course, they're gonna make this document, right? So even though I'm gonna try to submit the Freedom of Information Act, they're gonna say this document's confidential, right? But the findings are public. But that's all right. The emails are not confidential,
So we do have a final record of action.
So what's your action? That you remind people that when a kid is hurt, you must watch that kid and bring him to the hospital, ride with him in the ambulance. Duh. You know what I mean? How about this? You don't let the football let's send out a notice, right? That you got to make sure your football player has his helmet on before he goes in the game. No shit. I'm sorry, but this is kind of crazy that there's no accountability here. And if it was any other coach, I'd do the same thing. I mean, this man is the vice president, right, of the Coaches Association. You know what I mean? Right.
And tonight we are voting.
What are you
on this.
voting on? That you reminded everybody that we just wasted $80,000, right, of the kids' money, something that they would need. Like I said, I went to a school committee meeting last year. They were bickering that they don't have $6,000. Yeah, 80,000. Sure. Who do I write the check to? $80,000. How many like non-sports people are gonna be like, you did what? They're lucky, and no one spoke up at this. So they're lucky they don't have people like you see at some of these school committees, like Bob Caradillo as a watchdog on your ass. Like he would have been like, yo, stop the press right now. You spent 80 what? On what? And what's the accountability? A bottle of scotch? No, I'm capping.
So the pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, he said
Mr.
motion
Piero-
to approve.
Hello makes a motion to approve. Second by Mr. Collins. Any discussion? All in
No
favor?
discussion of a kid being beaten inside, on school property. No discussion about a staff member violating several policies. No discussion letting the taxpayers know what did they spend $80,000 on? What information came out of this? I mean, is that too hard that you're spending your Cumberland like it's your $80,000. I mean, if you don't care, then you don't care. I know one of them videos allegedly, and we're gonna try to get it. Had a former student there. He gave basically a video kind of testimony of how he was mistreated. We didn't hear anything about that. How about the 9 or 10 other people that they had spoke to?
Aye. Opposed? It passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that
And
was just crazy how they like. I think that was just crazy how they didn't even like have a discussion about it. Like how to prevent it. What do we do? What does this kid do to move on? Is this kid suffering from mental health? What's the family doing? Why did we make the father wait a year? No, because right after this, they go into talking how they have racist issues in Cumberland at all the levels with bullying and action being done, and it has gotten worse. So why bother why turn it over? Like, what needs to come out of this is that we need to pay attention that there was a lack of adult supervision at Cumberland High School with Josh Lima. And that should be a standard policy in all schools in any situation. And the failure to provide adequate supervision led to this kid being taken away in a rescue. And that was a fact. Ain't no allegedly there. He was taken away in a rescue. And we need to worry about the safety and well-being of all students. We know that the incident was captured on video. The footage shows the victim attempting to avoid the conflict and trying to get away and run for help that wasn't there. Run toward Josh Lima that should have been protecting him and wasn't. The school committee should have been trying to do something to protect him, and they weren't. The superintendent should have did more and not suspend the kid or overturn it right away when you've seen undeniable evidence of the unprovoked assault. And it has to raise questions about your leadership and your actions and your administration. See, one of the most puzzling things about this whole incident, a student was assaulted and suffered significant injuries. And what came out of it? That after events, make sure your kids get home. That wasn't the situation here. An unjust suspension, kid got hurt, taken to the hospital. The victims punished with a school suspension. And even considering the video evidence in this case, it just demonstrated what should have he done? He tried to do everything to avoid conflict. Why was the suspension upheld, Mr. Principal and Mr. Superintendent, if the school committee was horrified? You know why? They never thought the parents would take it to the school board, and they never thought the parents was going to demand an investigation. You thought people were going to quit like they usually do. But that's a shame at the end of the day. No accountability. There should have been some type of accountability. The appeal process, the suspension, the school committee members saying how they were horrified. It's just horrible, and is this kid suffering mental health problems? Does he have concern? Is he going to trust the staff anymore? He ran to you, Josh, for your help. And bro, you failed him. You wasn't there. How scared was he at that point? Honestly, how scared was he at that point, Joshua? Huh? Yeah, don't put your head down. Pick your head up, boy. That's why I always said, this dude, Josh, like a lot of people know, do I like him? No. Not even a little bit. People say, oh, what if something happens to him? Yeah, I don't want nothing to happen to the dude, but you know what? You got to deal with it. You got to question your manhood.
Here at Dello on the beat.
accountable. And that's where the Can We Keep It Real podcast came in. This was a platform that I dedicated to promoting student athletes, speaking the truth about the challenges that a lot of these kids face. And we're also not afraid to tackle tough questions, whether it be the pressure of balance in academics and athletes, staying competitive on the field, competitive in the classroom, tackling the lack of resources that are available to these kids, and definitely the toxic culture that exists inside these sports. One of the focuses of the podcast is holding coaches accountable. Everybody knows that. Coaches play a big role in the development of these kids. And it's very important that they are held to a higher standard of conduct.
I love what Mikey does. Sometimes I'm like, yo, you over the edge, TMZ with it. But
the boy gonna do you something nasty.
I hate to say it, more times than not, he get the results he wants.
Right, and to be honest with you, I honestly don't think it's over. Honestly, I think exactly what this state needs. We've always needed a platform where we can call out the nonsense,
the repercussions,
and give people the props that they deserve, and call out the people who are full of it. And honestly, I think that more and more people are starting to utilize Mike's platform for that. And honestly, I know a lot of folks. A lot of people talk to me, "Oh, Emerson, like you're on there and you talk this and you talk that," and I'm like, "Listen," I said. Name one thing that he's been wrong about. And then there's silence.
That's the bad guy. Bad guy. Bad guy. That's the bad guy. The bad guy.